Hello, welcome to the MeSince Data Security webinar. What we're going to focus on today is really how to prevent fraud and phishing attacks by protecting your identity and data. And as you'll see, we do this in an automated way. But I think the main focus has been always traditionally on the network infrastructure, and that's really important when we talk about a layered defense approach. But hopefully what we're going to do today is show you exactly how we can protect the identity and the data in the network as well, not just build the security into the infrastructure. So in terms of the agenda, let's have a look at where we are today. I expect most people on this call are going to have a fair awareness of security and the risks that are out there, what the real threats are. Then we're just going to talk about our solutions and run through a couple of successfully deployed solutions that we have. We've been running a few polls along the way as well, so trying to keep it interactive. We want to know what you guys are seeing out there and what your challenges are as well. And hopefully, if we have time at the end, we're going to go through a Q&A forum just to run through any solutions that you'd like to. So that's the agenda for today. So where are we now? So first of all, let's not forget how important email is. And certainly some of our email providers, and I personally think that email is really going to evolve, probably into something similar to Teams, Microsoft Teams or Slack or similar applications. You probably don't use email as much as you used to 5 or 10 years ago at home. I know I use WhatsApp, or most of my family and friends use WhatsApp as well. So I think it will evolve, but it's still a really crucial application, not just for worldwide, to the second communications, but also for document sharing as well. And as we all know, we should be using different means, like OneDrive or similar, to exchange the larger documents, but it's still a crucial application that people use every day. And we know from a lot of the surveys that a general office worker is receiving and sending over 100 emails a day, so it's very much part of their workday. So unless you've been living in a cave, you know that security issues are absolutely day-to-day now and almost very public. I often use the example where if I switch on the TV in the morning, there's been a latest breach. It's always tragic when that happens, but we need to build security into the DNA of the network and make sure we have that layered approach to protect away from that. So what's the latest things that we're seeing out there now? We're seeing a lot of impersonation fraud, which is a lot of phishing attacks as well, viruses, malware, etc. We've seen a lot of data leakage, so it doesn't have to be the whole of the data, but parts of it. One of the things I want to mention as well, there has been a lot in the news recently about it's not just illegal hacking or data breaches that happen. If your data is in the cloud, it's possible that someone could actually access that data legally, and I'm sure that's for very good reasons, but also you need to make sure that data is secure from whoever accesses it as well. And there's been the Cloud Act and RIPA that we have in the UK. There's a blog on our website about that if you want to have a look at it and comment on it as well. So it's a significant risk when the data is in the cloud, but we all know how important cloud technology is. I think Microsoft just announced that they'd done 28 billion, and AWS wasn't that far behind. So, the benefits of cloud are absolutely clear. We've got to carry on with it, but we need to make sure that we have security in the cloud as well. And there's in terms of security in the cloud, there's a thing called shared responsibility. So just remember, just because your data is in Azure, AWS, Google, Yahoo, whatever it is, you are responsible for that data. Okay, so don't leave it to the service provider, because you won't be able to have any comeback when it comes to that as well. So email impersonation and phishing, there's a lot of statistics on this. Certainly in terms of being attacked by ransomware, well, depending on which survey you look at, 35 to 45% of companies worldwide have been attacked. About 70 to 80% of them actually chose to pay a ransom. So, well, that's not a good situation to be in. And email was the most common delivery method for that, up to 70%. Sorry, 60%, my fault. The rest of it was website, social media, and effective storage. So when we talk about boss scams, we're talking about an email being sent internally. It doesn't have to be externally, but more often externally into an organization where it looks like it's from the CEO or the CFO. And because it's not authenticated or digitally signed, typically someone will get an email to the finance department that says, this is the CEO, I'm in Singapore, I need this money transferred to this account now. And that's been a real threat. And it's actually cost the companies in the millions. So we call those boss scams. Impersonation. There's a lot of online companies now out there that have SLAs. So that's service level agreements. So they if they don't respond to a client or an email request within 1 hour or 5 minutes, they can face severe penalties for that, and that's fairly common in the online world now. So sometimes they need to prove that those applications need a particular timestamp. So I can actually prove that that email was sent to you at this time, and that's digitally proven. So one of the things that's always been an issue as well is this idea of locking down the network and making it difficult for people to use. It's not acceptable these days at all, and it's not necessary these days. So security should never give a bad user experience or limit business flexibility in any way. So we need solutions that deliver to that sort of business level experience and moves away from the limiting the business flexibility. In terms of scalability as well, as our online business increases, digital world increases, our internal network increases, we've got to be able to scale these solutions up as well. So we might start off with document signing and sending emails to 5 users. And also see in a case study, we have a case where we've got hundreds of thousands of documents being signed in one day. And they started off signing 10 in one day. So we've got to be able to scale that solution without any disruption or huge increase in cost on to the client. So I thought it'd be a good idea to put some polls in here now. So just very briefly, do you have a strategy for protecting your data on premises? Protecting your data on premises or in the cloud, doesn't matter where. And that's either in transit. So we'll be sending an email from one company to the other, maybe across seas, or are you protecting it from any kind of impersonation, as we saw that phishing earlier, that phishing attack? And when I'm talking about in transit, very often what we find is that people think they're secure, but they're actually only secure from the client, so maybe from the PC using TLS to the service provider. So from that service provider, then if that service provider then passes that email to another service provider in another country or even the same country, we can't guarantee that that's secured. So you're actually only securing part of the email on its journey. And also in situ, when that data's sitting in the cloud or even on your own servers, you need to make sure that that's secure as well. So what I'm going to do is just put a quick poll up here so we can ask those questions. Okay. So if you just want to look at that there, I've got quite a few people on the call now. Do you have a strategy for protecting data on your premises in the cloud or in transit from theft or impersonation? So if you want to have a look at those answers there and just... okay, quite a few answers coming back now. Okay. Okay, so 90% of that was no, and about 10% of it was not sure. So I think it's certainly something worth visiting. So thanks for the poll, really good feedback. What I'm going to do now is talk about MeSince solutions, where you can use our solutions as part of your overall security strategy. But in terms of email security, where obviously MeSince are famous for, we're talking about email security end to end. So that's why I was mentioning earlier, where we're not just talking about it for email security or encryption from one part of the network to the other, or even like maybe 10% of that data. It's absolutely end to end. So if you think about end to end, what does that mean? I'm talking about my PC to your PC, and encrypted actually on there as well. And of course that covers impersonation and identity theft as well. What we need to understand here, and I'm sure there's quite a few technical people on here, which I saw when we were signing on, the real pain of having to use, say, for example, PGP. Well, all of this is actually automated because we have our own cloud infrastructure, security infrastructure, which you can use. And we use SMIMI. There's no need to actually buy any certificates either from expensive CAs. And we also offer as a value-added service document signing, and obviously fraud prevention for that. So we can, as a value-added service, you can actually exchange documents and digitally sign them to prevent fraud and stop them from being tampered with. We do time stamping as well. So what that means is if you look at a lot of the document signing solutions out there now, first of all, again, depending on what survey you look at, 70, 80% of those processes are still manual, which I find fairly frightening. There's a lot of solutions out there on the market which are very good, but they still don't use any digital certificates. So you can't prove it was sent by that person, even in that organization or even by that individual. It's almost like a graphical interface. And hey, I've used them myself, where we're using graphics to sign. I'll put my name on the bottom of the thing and then just right click it or cut and paste it and send that. There's even been cases where that hasn't actually stood up in court as well. So it's much better to digitally sign it, and helps with fraud prevention as well. So remember, we have a calculator as well you can use. You're going to save a huge amount, depending on what department you use it. You can use it in sales, marketing, or for internal use. You're really increasing that workflow there. There's always a famous, so I mentioned the sales thing, there's always a famous example that even 20, 30 years ago, IBM did a survey and 80% of their salespeople, most of their salespeople spend 80% of the time on non-sales related activity. So that is pretty worrying, and that will mean that they're not as productive as they should be. And, perhaps we all spend too much time on admin. So if we increase the workflow and the security in a way, that's really good. Just want to point out as well that you can actually use the MeSince app for free, which you'll see shortly. We allow you to go to MeSince.com. You can use the free app. You can get your certificates and you can start using it straight away. There's no need to exchange certificates manually. There's no need to set up things on portals or set up all your contacts, etc. You can use it straight away to send and receive emails. And then some people quite rightly ask, so if you're giving away this for free, why do you exist? So where we upsell, if you like, or we charge slightly more, is where you're going from V1 validation, which is just email validation that we do the validation for. And then you're going up to individual validation and then organizational validation, and then individual in that organization validation. So we don't go all the way to V4. And anything past V2, you can use the document signing as well. Also, if you did want to sign in batches for various reasons, for performance or extra control and security, you can do that as well with an API. That's quite a popularly deployed solution. I did just touch on this. Most of the solutions out there right now are portal-based. So if you use those, you've got to sign up for them. You possibly have to change your email address. we don't need a new email or different email address or have to risk putting passwords and keys on other people's systems. One of the problems with using the portal very often is I'm going to have to set up all my contacts on there, and I might have hundreds of them. So it's not necessarily with the solution here. We work with all the email systems there. So we work with Exchange, if it's on-prem or hosted. We work with Office 365, which obviously is increasingly popular, Gmail, Yahoo, etc. Just in terms of the extra security, so you're not only just getting the emails encrypted and certified by the sender from end to end, it's also encrypted on your endpoint and also on the service as well. So on 365, it'll actually be encrypted as well. So you've got that extra security. Also, the URL scanning that we do, which will scan the URLs for sort of dangerous URLs like phishing URLs, unknown URLs, malware detection we can do, and spam as well. So just wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about some of the case studies that we've had. Unfortunately, can't mention the specific names, as is often in the case of security. People don't want to kind of put their head above the parapet, if you like, and say, hey, we're using this. It's quite understandable. But these are available on request. And this was a really interesting one where we had a university that was still sending all the college entrance examinations. So just to be clear, this is where people want to get into a university, and the results from those needed to be sent by courier or picked up by the candidates themselves. And what we did is implemented a solution where they could pick up the documents easily. So you can imagine what a paper document process is like. I mean, you might have thousands of students using this as well. Paper documents can be faked and tampered with. Also easy to lose, hard to store, so people are often requesting the documents again. Not to mention the carbon footprint, the environmental costs and waste. And I think increasingly as we move to a digital world, students tend to be younger people, not all, but they're going to expect to log on and get this electronically. This doesn't replace the sort of tradition of having the certificates as well. This complements it, so you actually end up with both if you want to. So another case study. So we've got a high-tech firm here, really large, well-known international technical company, or tech, I should say. They do cloud computing and big data. They're quite a large service provider as well. So they have 40,000 employees, still use the email like a lot of people as the main internal and external information tool. Really concerned about the privacy of cloud-based emails documents, not only cloud-based but internally as well. Because if you look at the statistics, 30–40% of the threats, the data leaks are from internal. So encrypted emails there. So what we're able to do is, using MeSince, we were able to verify employees' identity. And each one of those employees has a signed certificate of identity, which obviously you get for free with the MeSince client, as I mentioned before. So then you're going to prevent against counterfeiting, phishing and fraudulent mails. So let's just talk about electronic invoicing, for example, and similar to what I was saying before about document flow. I mean, if you think about electronic invoicing, even from an accounting point of view, I'm not an accountant, but I know there's a thing called aged debtors. Aged debtors is a huge problem for every organisation. Basically, people getting people to pay the bills quickly and on time, and then obviously you're going to speed this workflow up by using electronic invoicing. Now, the classic way this organisation did this, and again, we've got this implemented in multiple different customers now, was it was produced by their internal system or sometimes manually, then it was printed out, then it was sent to the customer by post or express delivery, so sort of snail mail. So you've got confidentiality issues there as well, but certainly a lot of time and costs. Yeah, of course, I think any sales order processing or invoicing internal organisation will tell you that a lot of invoices get lost, or they arrive at the client and get lost, and then you have to um, replace them as well. So again, that holds up the whole payment cycle as well. So what we did is we deployed a full electronic signature system using MeSign. We Important thing to mention is it was an electronic invoice contained a trusted PDF certificate, a timestamp, and an LTV function as well. So you can see there on the diagram, there's lots of different solutions that we actually support. So I should say actually 4 different solutions that we support, but we're using a hashing algorithm. So we use the MeSign e-signing service. We don't send any documents or store any documents. Or keys or anything like that. So you're not sending the documents up to our solutions either. So using that, we're able to sign those documents and get that to the client. Don't forget as well, we need to open our minds up a little bit about how we use this system, because this is electronic invoicing, right? So you could use them for internal agreements. So, we have a client that's got 1,000 employees, and they got all their employees to sign their KPIs and sign their internal contracts and similar agreements and similar to that. You could use this system for that as well. Sales processing I touched on before. But anything where you've got a manual system in place, really need to look at how to speed up that workflow and make it better for everyone without reducing the flexibility and security of the manual system. So one of the things that I just wanted to ask now on the poll is the use of PGP, which stands for Pretty Good Privacy. And this is a solution that's been out there for a very long time. Do you use PGP? Have you tried to use PGP? Are you happy with it? But also, I just wanted to ask whether you think, after seeing this, you think it should be looking at securing the data in transit, so true end-to-end security and into the cloud. And if you're not already, do you really want to re-examine this and how you're doing it? So I'm just going to put that poll up now. If you could let us know what you think. Okay, it's just coming through. I think you might re-examine this. Yeah, okay, interesting. Okay, again, it's almost the same as last time. We've got 90% of people on here have said yes, which is great, and one person's not sure. So, well, sorry, I should say 10% is not sure. Okay, good. Oh, just a word on that PGP side, because it's a very well-known. There's a really interesting article in Forbes magazine by quite a well-known guy called Jeff Capone, just towards the end of last year, just after Boxing Day. And what he's saying is that PGP encryption is a privacy tool, and it was never really designed to encrypt the whole data set of any organization. And he quotes Wired magazine as it went as far as claiming PGP is dead. It's very, very difficult to use. We have had a lot of clients come to us because they've tried to implement it, and it's when they start sharing encrypted emails internally or externally that the difficulty becomes widely known. Again, on our blog, if you want to have a look at some of the articles we've written about that, that's great. But again, because we use SMIMI with their free certificates, you don't need to use this at all, so you get a much more scalable solution that's easy to use. And I used to work in support myself for a long time. You don't want moving from 100 phone calls a day perhaps to 1,000. It's all about giving that good user experience, and we can do that with this automated solution. So what I've got here, just a few screenshots before we wrap up. If you just want to look at the MeSince app, you could also, by the way, you can still use Outlook, but what I'd recommend you do is go on to MeSince.com, download the MeSince app, and really start using it. Obviously, set yourself up with some friends and colleagues; they could do the same thing, and you'll see how easy it is to use. And then if you move up to the next level of validation, which you can do, there is a very, very small fee to do that. You not only considered. We've got the next level of validation, which is V2. Your organization, or your individual, I should say, individual organization, then you're actually able to use that MeSign service that I mentioned as well. So do go on, download the free MeSince app. We're doing very well. We've got the solution out in 160 different countries there, with thousands of users using that. And a lot of people have actually upgraded to use the MeSign solution and the different validation levels as well. So organizational and individual level. So with that, I just wanted to open it up to any questions you may have. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any questions at the moment. Yeah, feel free to put it on chat if you want to put it on chat. Okay, I can't see anything come through at the moment. Oh, hang on. Yep, just got one here. Okay, that's a really good question. Sorry, I should have mentioned this as well. If you did want to have a demo to go through any of these solutions as well, just email me, uk2@mesince.co.uk, or even hello@mesince.co.uk. You'll see that on the website. We'll happily do a demo with you and talk through the solutions and how you can use them to your benefit. Okay, well, look, thanks a lot for your time. Hope you found it useful, and please download the MeSince app and say no to unencrypted, transparent, easy to read emails. Thanks a lot.